Booth with Bryce Coon.
Happy Wednesday, Ralph. We love the intro. Shout out to Richard Leary and his team of, what do you want to call them, Ralph? Do you want to call them his minions? Are they Richard Leary's minions? Is that who we're rolling with?
I wouldn't call them his minions. I would call them his associates, honestly.
They do
great work. They do great work.
Fantastic. We're excited. We're going to continue to work with that as well. We also are excited that you're tuning in with us tonight. Bryce Coon alongside Ralph Leary in the same, we'll call it the Crowded Booth headquarters. That's where we're located here tonight. That's safe to say, Ralph. Most of our work comes out of where we're at currently. I would deem that. We do have some work that comes from another location, but, that's okay as well. But listen, this is the Crowded Booth Live. We're excited. If you're watching over on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitter, through the Crowded Booth Twitter, make sure to follow and share this with your friends. And if you're watching on Facebook and you're from the Columbus area, we're excited to bring you some fantastic sports talk tonight, Ralph. It's going to be fun. And, Ralph, I want to picture this for you because we had a segment on Monday, and we called it Sunday Apps. So many were like, well, what's going to happen tonight? And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen tonight. Tonight we're going to have question of the day. So, Ralph, I came up with this. What is your go-to movie theater snack? Now, popcorn is okay, but your movie theater candy, what are you rolling with? And listen, if you're listening or watching comments, throw yours down there. Your favorite go-to movie theater candy.
Does it have to be candy?
If you're like a popcorn guy, that's fine. That's fine. Well, let's let's go sweet and salty. So you have your popcorn already. You got your Coca-Cola. As our good buddy Trent Griner says, your ice cold Coca-Cola. He just puts all the words together. That's how they do that down there in South Georgia. Ice cold Coca-Cola. What sweet are you putting with the salty?
Most of the time it's either Sour Patch Kids or the Butterfinger Bites.
Or Butterfinger Bites.
That's the only like chocolate bar I'll eat is a Butterfinger, and that's the extent of it really.
I gotcha. I'm going to roll with, you can't ever go wrong with this plain M&Ms, peanut M&Ms. Shout out to Ralph Leary, the second there. I know he's a big peanut M&M fan. But I'm going either peanut M&Ms, and sometimes, Ralph, if you put if the popcorn's still hot, okay, and you put the chocolate M&Ms down in the popcorn, very good combination. But if I'm going with the box candy, you know what I'm talking about? That's like in the theater. Do you remember the cookie dough bites?
I do. I never had them as a kid, but I do know. Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, my mom never really let me have those. Shout out to Courtney because of those. Because one, we all know it was like $19 for that little box when we grew up here in Columbus, and I know our Columbus viewers can tell us this too. If you grew up in Columbus, what you really did is you went to Target, you went to the dollar aisle, and you got your box candy. You stuck it in your mom's purse, and then you went inside the movie theater. Shout out to Hollywood Connection. That I'll say this too, Ralph. I went and played putt-putt there about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and did not feel in danger. I did not feel in danger.
Where was the invite?
It was with it's a private group that we go play with. We have a small tour. It includes our good friend Doug. We have a private tour. We've gone around the Southeast a little bit and played some putt-putt courses. That's actually a true statement. Anytime I've gone on vacation with Doug, we go play putt-putt. So one of those things. We'll have to see if you have the talent to get in. We do have the Leary Invitational coming up, so we'll have to see how that goes. We're going to kick that back off. But listen, we're excited that you're here talking with us. Obviously, Ralph, if you're over on YouTube, people are watching. They're like, holy cow, this is the third straight night the Crowded Booth's been live. Obviously, we're live on Mondays. We're live on Tuesdays with our new show that my man Ralph produced behind the scenes. Ralph, give me a high five right there. Fantastic job of producing the show. It was a ton of fun. And we had some good viewers. And Ralph, I think as soon as you were clicking the comments, we had another comment coming in. So it was good.
It got really dicey in there quick because I was starting to hit comments and I was clicking off of them and I was actually accidentally clicking on someone else's comment and I was like, it's getting kind of quick here. And I clicked on and off about 3 comments too fast and I was like, uh-oh, here we go.
But listen, it was a ton of fun. Obviously, we had good engagement from that as well. So if you are a Georgia Tech fan, you're looking for a talk show, was talking with a fan last night, and they said, we really don't have a show that's dedicated to Georgia Tech, and the coverage in Atlanta doesn't do that. So that's what we're looking to provide as well. It's a ton of fun. We're still looking to fill that Thursday slot. So if you're looking what our schedule kind of looks like, it's Monday we're live. When Wednesday we're live, Ralph and I are on here. Tuesdays, we have Georgia Tech show. Thursdays, still got an open slot right there. And Fridays, our podcast recording is coming out, which, Ralph, still have the fingers crossed. We have one of our most legendary podcast guests that could be entering the show soon. But listen, we want to say thank you to our sponsors. We got Ralph, hit them up again. We did this on Monday. You should be well versed of this now. Presented by Section 103. You're going the wrong way.
I'm sorry.
Okay. It's okay. Presented by Section 103. And then I have presented by Cook's Place Hot Dogs. If you're in Columbus, Ralph, we kind of talked up Section 103, so I'm going to talk up Cook's Place tonight. Best scramble dog in town. Would you agree to that?
1,000% every single time.
1,000%. The man they call Sunshine, for obvious reasons. He's a Columbus fixture. Go check out Roy Cook and his amazing scramble dogs. They've got great fries. They also have a breaded steak sandwich that you might enjoy. I know Ralph and I both grew up going there when we were younger, and obviously we've continued the tradition. We try to go there a couple of times a month at least. But listen, Ralph, let's dive straight into some sports talk here today. College football week 3. We talked about week 2. We had a great guest in Zach McKinnell on to talk about Auburn, Penn State, what he thought. We're going to talk about that tonight. But first, let's go down into the state of Florida. Let's head down I-75 to Gainesville, Florida, where you have a program, really a rematch, Ralph, of the SEC title game from last season. But, how these teams look so different. Alabama is replacing a ton of talent offensively, but they still have a ton of talent. Florida goes from one of the most talented offenses we've seen in the recent 5 years to an offense that's still struggling to find their identity. So before we go kind of into in-depth in this game, what are you most excited to see between these two teams? Obviously, it's probably going to be the big first high-profile conference SEC game of the season.
Just as who plays quarterback for Florida and who has the hot hand for them. We're going to talk about it in just a minute, but I'm curious to see who Florida throws out there. You have 2 talented quarterbacks. Now, if Richardson does not play, you have Emory Jones, and this will be Emory Jones' first start in a primetime game, really, because this is he's been behind so many different quarterbacks the past 4 years that this is his time to shine. And if he's not up for the test, they've really wasted these past 4 years for waiting on him to develop, I guess. So that's the main thing I'm looking forward to is who's Florida's quarterback at kickoff.
At kickoff, it's going to be raucous. It's going to be a full environment. The Swamp is one of the great environments in all, not only the SEC, but in college football. How much, in your opinion, does the home field advantage help Florida here? Remember, Bryce Young has not played in a high-profile game on the road. Many people, obviously last week I was in the building. It was obviously 97% Crimson Tide fans. Then you go over to Atlanta in week 1. A lot of people call that East Tuscaloosa because the Crimson Tide have played there and so well so often. Do you think Bryce Young – we'll start the conversation off. And if my man Jacob Crowder's listening, I know he's a big Alabama fan. He told me the other day. So, Ralph, don't make him mad. It's a former coach of you. But roll with me here. Does Bryce Young feel any pressure from the crowd and atmosphere that Gainesville could provide?
I don't think so. I think obviously he's not played so much in his short career so far. But I think, he's developed well enough that he has learned this offense. He's matured into this offense. Obviously he's young. He's going to make a few mistakes, and Saban's going to correct him on those, and he's going to get help from Bill O'Brien. But I don't think Bryce Young will be, scared of Florida, especially how loud it's going to be, because this is a very loud stadium. No matter what Florida has as a team, it's always going to be extremely loud and a very dangerous place to play if you're an away team, no matter who you are. I think Bryce Young settles in quick. I think, if he can get up early, first two scores, maybe first two drives, gets some points on the board early. I mean, Alabama's in a very comfortable state where they have their quarterback rolling early on. Their defense is playing lights out. And I don't know. I feel like Alabama can settle in real quickly and just run away with this game. I don't know what Florida has for playing for Bryce Young. He's very talented. He's mobile. And he can sling it with the best of them. I think, and then watching the Miami game basically the whole game, I thought Bryce Young threw very well on the run. He's still very good in the pocket, but I still think he's a better thrower on the run, which is weird to say. Most quarterbacks are the other way around, but Bryce Young did a very well job when he was scrambling for a few yards, and he can sling it down the field and make a very accurate throw. And it kind of reminds me of how Mahomes is when he's rolling out. I'm not going to compare both of them, but that's basically how it looks when he's rolling out.
Let's get to some comments here. Drew Haywood saying Bryce Young will be the best Alabama quarterback of all time. You heard it here first. He's got the talent. Drew Haywood coming out guns a-blazing. Owen Lakeman right here. I think Bryce will be a little anxious at first, but then I think he'll settle in. Owen, I like what you said right there. We appreciate both of those comments. Make sure you stay tuned and share, because we're going to be talking this game. We're going to talk about Penn State Auburn. We're going to wrap up with a little bit of the chop, not the chomp, the chop, talking about some Atlanta Braves. Ralph, you hit the nail on the head with Bryce Young does better on the run. So when you have a young quarterback and defensively you want to get to him, the logical thing is, well, let's mix up some blitzes. Let's scheme and try to get him uncomfortable. But I remember Zach McKinnell was on with us. He was in the comments probably a week or two ago, and he said, I think he gave us the actual stat of where he was completing his passes at an unheard of clip while he was under pressure. Mm-hmm. So what do you do if you're Florida? I mean, this is a Florida team that defensively up front feels like they have the horses to compete with the elite teams in college football. It's more a question on the offensive side. But this is not the same Florida defense that was kind of there when, Will Muschamp was there. Even McElwain, who inherited a little bit of Will Muschamp's defense. This is Dan Mullen's defense. And more importantly, Ralph, for our Florida fans, it's Todd Grantham's defense. The third and Grantham could rear its ugly head here in Gainesville. How do you see that playing out?
Like you just said, though, I mean, this is a defense is not the same we saw last year, honestly. I mean, you got a little more talent on the side of the ball or on defense. I mean, you got Daquan Newkirk, who was a Auburn transfer playing defense tackle from this year. And I feel like Florida can, they're very talented on the defensive side of the ball. They're very mature. They got a lot of speed. And that's one thing Alabama will need to, be able to hold out is, Bryce Young can scramble, but you can't scramble for long if these defensive ends and outside linebackers catching up to you. I mean, these guys are quick. And I'll tell you one thing, and past Florida players that safeties and corners that make the NFL, they're headhunters. They really are. And they hit hard. And a few times we've seen in the past that if you're not careful and Bryce Young tries to extend the play a little bit and gets gets knocked around a little early on, it could be a bad situation for Alabama.
It could. Alabama does have some backups that are quite capable. I don't know if they've been as quite capable as the backups they've had in the past. All three of those young men are starting in the NFL. But you talk about that, and I want to look deeper into Florida's numbers here, Ralph. Defensively for the Gators, they're giving up through the first two games of the season 325 yards on the dot. That's 224.5 through the air and right at 100.5 on the ground. We know Alabama, no matter who the OC was, even when it was Lane Kiffin, which is still hard for me to believe that Lane Kiffin was ever the offensive coordinator at Alabama. But Drew would love to get your take on this. I think Drew Haywood's a pretty big Alabama fan. So we know Alabama's identity. We know that they have a quarterback who's capable of doing that. But, Ralph, if you talk about a front seven that's revamped for Florida, in my opinion, and I'll say this too, so it's not just like I'm interviewing you the whole time, but I think it's important for Alabama to establish the run early. And Owen right there, Lakeman, so am I, Roll Tide. Want to get your guys' opinion. I think you have a running back in Brian Robinson that runs angry. I mean, he runs angry. This is an Alabama team right now that is averaging over 152 yards on the ground, 310 through the air. Now, Ralph, they're scoring only 46 points a game. Now, they did that. They did that against Miami and then FCS level Mercer. Now, I can say this because I was in the building. There were a lot of mistakes against that Mercer team. That game should have been a wider margin. So flip it. If Alabama makes some of those mistakes, if they shoot themselves in the foot with some penalties, Alabama almost had 100 yards. It was 9 penalties for 95 yards against Mercer. If they get in a situation where Bryce Young gets behind the 8 ball early, let's say he throws a pick, or let's say they shoot themselves in the foot on some plays where they were driving down the field. Could you see this turning in quickly into Florida's favor? The crowd gets into it. So one of those things, we know how big home field advantage is. I think if Alabama starts slow, and let's say Florida goes up 10-0, 14-0 early, and you're sitting there in the middle of the second quarter and Young still hasn't settled in, to me that would be best case scenario for the Gators.
Well, I remember last year in the SEC Championship game, which was a neutral site, but we always call Atlanta East Tuscaloosa. Florida was down early on. They couldn't really do much in the first half. In the second half, I feel like Alabama kind of slipped up, let them come back. And then the final score is only 52-46. And Florida was able to throw the ball for 408 yards against a very talented Alabama defense last year, which obviously to me, it was not the best defense we've seen in Alabama. But it's still a very good defense. And Trask was able to throw for 3 touchdowns that game. And those are big mistakes that Alabama made during that game that led to those touchdowns. And I feel like if Alabama is in that same situation this year, you're not in a neutral site. You're in their site. And this is a very loud stadium. Like I said, it's a very tough place to play. And it tends to swing to the other side once you let them get going. I remember Auburn, Florida a few years ago when Bo Nix was a freshman going into, Ben Griffin Stadium by first year playing. And, he struggled at first, made a few bad throws, but Auburn had a great defense that year, was able to kind of flip the script on them and, almost made a good comeback. So Bryce Young to me is a little more experienced than Bo was that time. I think Bryce Young can make big enough plays to lead Alabama and not really mess up. Look at his coaching staff. You got Nick Saban. If he makes a mistake, Nick's going to correct it, and Bryce Young's going to go out there and, execute properly the next time. Nick tries to limit mistakes, and that's his main. I think that's his main thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was, and you saw this on the game. He was not a happy camper during that Mercer game.
It's true.
You're up 48-7 or whatever the score was at one point, and he's still yelling at his player because he expects the best from those guys. And I think that's what you'll see on Saturday is Alabama being able to execute properly every single play. That's
going to be important. We got Owen Lakeman coming here. It could be a crazy, weird game. If it rains like it says, that could be a factor. I want to go back to that Auburn-Florida game because that was the last time we kind of saw a high-profile freshman quarterback play on the road in Gainesville in a hostile environment, Ralph. Going to go back to those stats right here. 11 of 27, 145 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. The key, the 3 interceptions. You talked about the defense for Florida being able to come up with those big, and I call them big negative plays. If Florida can do that early on, that's where it could get weird. But you got to be able to score, and that's going to be the tough thing for Florida. Listen, you talked about the secondary for the Gators. Kyrie Elam is going to be a top guy taken in the draft. I mean, he is that special of a talent. But when you look at what this team has offensively, I think a lot of people, and give credit to Kyle Trask, he made the plays. But I think a lot of people rolled into this season saying they're going to be fine when you understated the ability in Kadarius Toney, who had almost 100 receptions, and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Now, you still have some weapons. You have some weapons.
Yes.
But Emory Jones, if he gets the start, we know his ability to run with the football. This is going to be a game where I felt like Florida's going to have to make 1 or 2 key plays. And if Alabama makes a mistake, don't you believe that Florida would have to take advantage of those points off turnovers if there are some in Alabama for Alabama? That's going to be huge for the Gators offense.
Oh yeah, I mean, it just having the ball in your hands at your home stadium, I feel like you have a lot more advantage in general. You want your offense to hold the ball as much as they can to tire out their defense for one, and for your defense to have enough rest where they can keep making big plays. And because Alabama, they went tempo against Miami at first, and no one was expecting that at first. So if Alabama goes tempo first to start the game off, whenever they have the ball, you can see it. Clock's not going to run as much. They're going to try to go quick. They're going to try to score down real fast because they don't want to be on the field forever. With that noise and getting to Bryce Young. So Florida's not make big plays. A sack here now, and you really got to make sure you cover those receivers. I mean, those receivers are very talented. I mean, you got some of the. I mean, every year I feel like Alabama's got a top 20 pick and a receiver every single year.
Mm-hmm.
And they had 2 last year. They had 2 a year before that. I mean, every year Alabama's producing receivers, and that's one thing you need to be careful with is that these guys can get rolling real quick. And if Bryce Young gets comfortable with that, you're sitting behind maybe 2 scores.
Owen Lakeman brought this up. This is huge, Owen. Thanks for bringing this up because this is where I was going next. Will Anderson probably won't be 100% healthy. They came out today with his knee injury is encouraging, but Saban defined today in his press conference as the linebacker status is day to day. Now, also, this is an Alabama team that's missing 2 guys in the secondary, Ralph, Jalen Armour-Davis and Josh Jobe, 2 guys that are expected to play, but these are the 2 starting corners. And yes, that meant that Kool-Aid McKinstry had to start against Mercer. No disrespect to Mercer, but you can probably get away with a young man named Kool-Aid McKinstry, who's a very talented guy in his own right, getting his first career start against Mercer. Against Florida, that might be a different story. McKinstry made some errors. He played well, but it's going to be very interesting to see that as well. Ralph, really quickly, because we're going to get into predictions, give me a sneak preview. Do you see this game being a blowout in Alabama's favor? Do you see Florida keeping it close? Or do you believe the Gators could do enough to pull off the upset?
Going to the game, Alabama is a 14.5-point favorite. You don't see that very often when 2 ranked teams are playing each other.
And they're on the road.
So, for one, honestly, if it was a home game, it would be a 17.5-point favorite. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like Alabama covers this game. I feel like they score a lot of points. They can give up some points, too. That's the thing, because I feel like their offense is good enough to score almost every single drive. I say it's probably going to be Alabama 42 and, Florida 24.
Yeah, you okay. All right. I like that. That's interesting, Ralph, because I think that this could be closer than the pundits think. I think it could be something that's interesting to watch, but nonetheless, it's going to be a high-profile game. We're going to talk about the other high-profile game that involves the folks over in Auburn right after this. You're going to hear from one of our fantastic local sponsors.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place, fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
Ralph, you know what I got for you? I almost spoiled it there. There's been a lot of talk about what Auburn is walking into. So I want to give fans a sneak preview. Maybe you don't know, but this is exactly what Auburn could be walking into on Saturday night.
Well, that's just not good.
Ralph, he couldn't even hear. You couldn't hear the snap count, Ralph. So I know this is a thing where Auburn fans have been in the camp of, we've seen it before. We've gone these places. Bo Nix played in Dallas. Bo Nix played in Athens. Bo Nix has played in Tuscaloosa. But, Ralph, I know that if you are a fan of a Big Ten team or if you're a fan of another school in the SEC, I know you're picking Penn State. You've said you love what Penn State has to offer. How much, and this is the question everyone wants to know, how much does the environment at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley in State College, Pennsylvania, right outside of the Hershey Bar town itself, how much does that environment affect this Auburn team in your opinion?
I think it truly affects them. I mean, you look at Auburn in the past few years playing in Death Valley. I mean, they really have struggled every time they play down there. So, to me, this could be a huge game for Penn State if they were able to control their crowd and take advantage of Auburn's mistakes because of the crowd noise. I mean, you watch that video, a very experienced Michigan team going in there, and they came and snapped the ball on the first drive. So if Auburn can't do it the first drive, I mean, you're looking at a very, scared Bo Nix, a very scared Auburn offense who's confused. But I will say this, and you just kind of touched on it, Bo has already played in some very hostile environments already. I think he's prepared for this. I don't think he's worried. I think he's going to go in there with his head held high. He's going to go there and play as best as he can. I'm not saying that, Bo's a Heisman favorite. I know that's been thrown around every single game. But this is Auburn's first test this year. And we know this because they haven't played a single team really this year, but 2 cupcakes. So I'm very excited to see what Auburn can do. This offense has been electric, 60 points past 2 games. But like I said, you haven't played anyone yet.
It's the catch-22, Ralph. And it's one of those things of what does this game mean for Auburn? And a lot of people talked in that game or the week 1 matchup of Georgia Clemson and said, what does this game mean? It's non-conference. You still have a chance. I think this game means a lot for Auburn. You have Georgia State coming right afterwards. And apologies to my good friend Ben Moore. I thought Georgia State was going to be a very talented team coming this year. They are a wet paper bag defensively. It's like something running through a tin horn that Nick Saban likes to say. They can't stop anybody. So you have to think that you're going to win that game if you're Auburn. Okay.
Especially if you lose this game and you go in, angry.
Exactly.
Georgia State's going to have a rough night.
But what comes after? LSU, Georgia, Arkansas. I mean, that's and you're going on the road to Fayetteville or Little Rock. I know that ticks you off, Ralph. But this is a game for me that could be a litmus test. And we talked about it on Monday with Zach. It also could say, where's this program at? But I think it could really show these guys that they can compete right now and on national level.
Yeah. And
I think it could be very interesting to see what Auburn could do. If they go into Happy Valley and win, it could give them you think about what that means. This is a Big Ten. This is an SEC. This is 2 of the big things across that you have to sit there and say, who's better? And now the conferences get to go at it. Who is better?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the 2013 Auburn team. You go back to when they beginning of the year, and they played, I think, Arkansas State beginning of the year, I believe.
I think so.
They played Washington State beginning of the year, and Arkansas State. And your first hard game was Mississippi State at home, and that was before you played you had lost the past 8, I think, SEC games. So Auburn came in and won that. They had a big motivation jump and lost to LSU on the road. This is a little bit different. It's a little bit similar, though, in a certain ways that Auburn wasn't tested the first 2 games, won a big home game for first SEC win, got a little motivation going into the next week, and lost. But this right here is a season setter. That's the best way for me to say it, is that if Auburn goes into Happy Valley and walks out of there with a win, I mean, every team's on high alert coming with Auburn because Georgia's got to go to Auburn. Alabama's got to go to Auburn. And Auburn's got to travel to LSU this year, which I just said a minute ago, Auburn has not played very well there. But
since 99.
Since 99. But if Auburn comes out of Happy Valley with a win, they're walking into Death Valley with a little chip on their shoulder ready to get that first win in the past 20 years. So
it's huge. It's big to think about because a win like this, it can allow a program to puff its chest out and say, okay, we've heard a lot from Alabama. Alabama had that win. And truth be told, let's dive into this. This is interesting. I've talked about this. What was Alabama's big win that said, hey, we're back with Nick Saban? I don't know if you remember. 2008 when Georgia blacked out and they went into Athens. Remember, Georgia was number 2 in the country.
Was that 08?
That was 2008 when
Alabama
went in there. And what did they do the next year? They won the national title. And then we know what happened. That was the thing that said for Alabama, we can compete on a national level. This was the first big domino road win. We can go on the road. For Georgia, under Kirby Smart, I think that win was Notre Dame. That showed that we can go into an environment, we can go to one of the more storied places in college football. For me, this is the game for Auburn. Now, the difference is it comes in the first year under Harsin, where the Alabama-Georgia game and the Kirby Smart came in. Kirby Smart was second, and I believe Saban, it was either his second or third season, but his second. So that's the only difference. Is it okay to say with Harsin's first year he could have this win? But listen, I like Brian Harsin. I think he has the program. He has a different mindset. Zach talked about the guys are bought in, and you don't feel like there's a different mindset in the facility. Everyone knows what's at stake for this game, and they know how it can set the tone. So we haven't talked anything about the specific game, and we don't necessarily have to. Bo Nix has got to play well.
Yeah,
I was talking with somebody on the way into our credit booth headquarters tonight, and they were talking. They're an Auburn fan. They are not going to the game, but they've got a nice little tailgate plan. They're going to be watching it. If Bo Nix gets in a situation where he's got to run around and he's got to be flinging stuff, and you start to see the happy feet Bo Nix. Brian Harsin talked about it this week, Ralph, and Bobo did too. Bo Nix has got to realize he's got a little more time. That mental clock still hasn't all the way kicked in for him. He's got still a little bit more time. Now, we know he had a shaky offensive line, but if we start to see, if Penn State gets a pass rush, and we start to see Bo Nix get happy feet, that's when it could get dangerous. And I think that's where Auburn fans sit back and go and groan and go, oh gosh, here's what happens the past 2 seasons. But we've talked about this. Will Bo and Harsin, will they have corrected that? What is that something that would have been corrected? Do you think that that's something Auburn fans can lean on, saying there's a new regime, there's a new focus? We haven't seen Bo Nix tested individually like that up to this point, but I'm telling you, he's going to get everything that you could possibly think of on Saturday night.
Well, here's the difference between Bo Nix from last year and this year.
Mm-hmm.
Is going into this game, he's been sacked once. Obviously, we've Alabama State and Akron, and last year you played a full SEC schedule, so you were playing better defenses.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, going to the third game of the season, which was Arkansas, he had been sacked 4 times already, and 3 came against Georgia. So, to me, Bo Nix right now feels comfortable with his offensive line. He feels safe back there. He feels like he's more mobile back there. As I say that, he doesn't have to be as mobile as he had been in the past. He's not going to have to scramble for 2 to 3 yards. I think he's going to feel comfortable with his receivers. He's got very talented receivers. Demetrius Robinson had a huge game last week. Obviously, he put up 3 touchdowns, 2 receiving and 1 rushing. And I think Auburn's offense is a lot different than it was last year. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a very multiple offense. They're able to adapt to whatever defense that Penn State's going to show on Saturday. They're able to move the ball up and down the field quicker. I think they have a very diverse running room right now. You got Tank Bigsby, who's going to run you over if you're not looking out for it, and then you got Jarquez Hunter, who had a 95-yard touchdown run on Saturday. So to let Bo Nix get comfortable back there, you need to establish that run. Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter have to take over this game early on to help Bo Nix get comfortable and to maybe let him throw the ball up more. I don't think you'll see over 25 pass attempts for Bo Nix this weekend. You'll see a lot of run game, a lot of sweeps. Just try to get out of that box that Penn State has. They have a very good defensive line, good linebackers, and attack that secondary. I think Auburn can do that. They're very capable of doing that in general to me. But this is, like you said, this is their first test. We'll see how this Auburn offense actually is.
I like that. I think that if Bo Nix can stay comfortable, utilize the weapons around him that Auburn has at its disposal. When you talked about that running back room, you believe that's the best running back duo right now through week 2 in the country, and I don't think there's many people that would argue. I
say that is the best running back duo that has played. Now, obviously, you think of duos that played. You go to Michelle and Chubb and Gurley and Marshall. Those 2 played consistently.
Give it to the Auburn fans, Cadillac and Ronnie.
Even
Darren McFadden, Felix Jones.
Jesus, you get my point. Is that guys who play with each other the whole entire time, not guys who like Georgia right now has the best running back room because they have guys who can play anywhere. Now, if you saw more carries out of all four of those running backs every time, it's a different story. But, like, the duo of college football running backs right now, I think Jarquez Hunter and Tank Bisbee they're both young, for one, and they're both running on a very veteran level, honestly.
They're running on a veteran level. I like that. Ralph, I want to point this out to you. You can see right here over on ESPN. You tell me how well you can see this. The points per game. I mean, you look at that, 61 and 30, okay?
Well,
but it's because Auburn hadn't played anybody. The total yards. I think this is skewed. I think you got to throw the stats out in this situation, and I want to go to what our guy Brian Harsin said about what they're going to have to do. It's a quick snippet. I'm going to share it right here. What he said about what they're going to be walking into. Because, listen, it's a hostile environment. It's going to be fun to watch. Here's what Coach Harsin said.
And they have a chance to, again, be at home. And we know that we've got to handle our business this week as far as just getting ourselves prepared and ready to go out there and have a great Tuesday practice. And then as the week goes on, have ourselves ready to travel, make sure that we handle, whatever comes with our travel plans. If there's a little adversity, we handle that, and then have ourselves ready to play on Saturday.
It's just a quick snippet. And you might say, Bryce, what do you take away? To me, it's the focus. It's the focus of what you're talking, the intensity of what the situation is. So, Ralph, we're not going to get into much prediction time. People can go over to our Instagram, or, Ralph, where can they go?
The
Crowded Booth. Thecrowdedbooth.com.
I got this time.
To get our predictions. But tell me, what has to happen in order for Auburn to win this football game? We talk about Penn State. We don't have a big Penn State following, so we got a lot of Auburn fans. What has to happen for Auburn to walk out of Happy Valley with a big dub headed back to the Dixie State?
Walk into that stadium with the feeling that you can win this game. Because if you walk in there scared, you're going to run out of there with your tails between your legs. Auburn has to go in there and own the offensive line and their defensive line. You need to establish the run game, and you need to let your receivers, get comfortable out there with Bo. Let them get that connection quick, and your offense can. I think this offense can outscore Penn State. So if it goes into a shootout, I think Auburn has the advantage there. Now, Penn State has only scored 44, and that was against Ball State, and 16 against Wisconsin. Wisconsin, very great defense. But Penn State's offense, to me, honestly, has not shown me much. Like I think Zach said it on Monday, Noah Kane hasn't really shown me all that yet. I completely agree. I think Jarquez Hunter showed more, and he's younger. And I think Auburn's offense can roll real quickly. Like I said, establish that run quick. Let Bo get comfortable. Don't let him get scared early on. Don't go out the first drive and throw the ball 3 times. Because if they don't complete one pass, you have a very fired up fan base. In a defense that is going to be launching themselves at Bo. So establish a run, get a great run game going on to start the game off. If you don't score first drive, it's okay. You move the ball downfield, get field goal range, or a punt that puts them on the 1 yard line. Make big plays. And that's the one other thing is make big plays. Don't let them have 2 to 3 big plays late in the game that gives them a momentum change. You need to have a big play almost once a quarter to really just keep your head above them, because if you let them get above you, they're going to run away with this game.
Penn State is more of a physical team than they are explosive, I would say. I mean, they have some weapons. Don't doubt what they have. They have weapons, but I think it's going to be a dogfight. And I'm actually, Ralph, do you know the over-under on that game?
The over-under is 53.
I'm taking the under. I'm taking that. I think this could be just a dogfight. This could be much like what people thought, and I'm going to go back to it. I know Auburn fans hate to hear it, but what Georgia did when they went to Notre Dame. People thought that was going to be a high-scoring game, and the final score was 17-14, 17-10, or 17-13. It was a low-scoring affair, or 20-17, I think that game was. I'm taking the under in this game. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think Auburn's defense is going to make a big play. I think Bo Nix is going to be solid. The biggest thing, he doesn't have to play hero ball. You got the weapons. You got the weapons.
He has a lot of weapons, and I think that's what Bobo's really done for him this year is help him realize that he has more weapons this year. You're not relying on Seth Williams at all times and Anthony Schwartz deep ball. You have 3 to 4 receivers that are just as capable of doing all of that combined, and you have 2 running backs that are are running on full steam right now. And another thing, you didn't have Tank Bigsby last year against Georgia. He wasn't healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, Tank Bigsby's healthy. Jarquez is healthy. Auburn's healthy, and that's the one thing the fans don't realize is they're healthy going to this game right now. Unless something happens unexpectedly with COVID, hopefully that does not happen. I mean, I completely agree. It could be a dogfight. It really can be. And this could be, honestly, this is kind of a hot take. This could be the best game we see this year out of, for a SEC, non-SEC, SEC matchup. You know what I mean?
Especially with, I think, some people felt the clunker that happened in Charlotte. They didn't see what they wanted to see.
Look, if you call that a clunker, you don't love football. I mean, that was a defense.
It's just two different brands.
Yeah, you got to love football to really like that game. It's a defensive game. It was a head-to-head dogfight, literally, because they just hit each other consistently. I mean, Georgia had 7 sacks. I mean, you don't see that very often in the first place. I mean, last time I saw plus 7 sacks in the game was when Auburn got sacked 8 times by Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was the year that they ended up playing pretty well that year, I felt like. I think they did. So they did. We'll see. We'll see how it rolls out. But, hey, Ralph, we got to go to commercial here. So thanks for talking. We got to talk about this. Section 103, more comfortable than the club seats. Ralph, our shirt and my hoodie are coming in. If fans, you want to get your own awesome merchandise, listen, this is a college apparel that what they do is they go after the apparel that you like, What do you like about your school? Well, they do that. That shirt in the bottom left, Ralph, Bobby Dodd Stadium is my happy place. Could you imagine how many Auburn fans would buy Jordan-Hare Stadium is my happy place? It's a cool shirt, comfortable shirt as well. I've got one that we're going to have on the show next Tuesday. The biggest thing is that they have the official Tech Gold logo. You see right there, the model's modeling that one with the new word mark, which is really hard to find anywhere. You see the St. John Days former Georgia Tech star right there, and they're the only place that you can get apparel with the ATL logo right there. They have some more designs, and guess what? You can vote on it, and when you do, you get 15% off just by voting. You do that. It's a ton of fun. They have a fantastic opportunity for you to get involved with them, and we do too. Coupon code Crowded Booth for 10% off on your first order. That's thanks to Section 103, Stephen, brand new sponsor of the Crowded Booth. Ralph, we're wrapping it up here with a little bit of conversation about the Atlanta Braves. We're going to keep it brief. We're going to talk about them. First off, they've got a tough playoff push, Ralph. It's not going to be easy. They've got a tough schedule. They got to go back out west, but they also are taking on and facing, never really head-to-head till the end of the season, a Phillies team that has a bit of a easier schedule. So as we wrap up the show right now, what has to happen for Atlanta to claim their 4th straight NL East title?
Don't get sluggish. You got to stay hot. You got to stay consistent. You had a very good streak going into the matchup against the Yankees. You split with the best team in baseball. You got swept by the Dodgers. And you really performed very well against the Rockies on the road. Mm-hmm. You cannot let that happen again. You need to stay consistent. You can lose 1 or 2 every once in a while, but really, this is crunch time. There is no more. Well, we got 3 or 4 months left. No, we got 2 weeks left. Yeah. I think 2 or 3 weeks left. You cannot get sluggish. You got to stay consistent. Pitching needs to be there. You got to score runs. I mean, you got Adam Duvall, who is. Adam Duvall
35 homers, 101 RBIs.
Adam Duvall should be in the MVP talk because he leads National League in RBIs and has 35 home runs. Who knew? Because when the Braves traded for him, I had no idea he was even close to even 30 home runs in the first place. So when someone told me he had 30, I was sitting there, you're lying to me because there's no way he has 30. So
listen, the Braves are playing the Rockies right now. Top of the 4th, Atlanta is up 1-0. You scoreboard watch it this time of year, Ralph. Phillies are up 3-2. Right now, Atlanta has a 4.5 game lead on the Phillies. When you look at the schedule, how it shakes out, listen, we go on the road to San Francisco. That's going to be tough. You go 4 against Arizona. That'll be interesting.
You're pitching Morton and Freed those first 2 games.
That's going to be huge. If you could take 2 or 3 from them, that'd be massive. You're going to play 4 against Arizona. You're going to play 4 against San Diego, a continuation of a game where Atlanta was losing. Or technically, you're playing 3.5, because you had to play the continuation on that Friday of that game that they had to suspend due to rain. It's 5-4 in the bottom of the 5th currently when they play that one. Then you come home for the final time, you got the Phillies and Mets. And obviously, Ralph, Atlanta's going to have to take care of business, much like Brian Harsin said Auburn's going to have to do. Final thoughts. Does Atlanta do it? I know you talked about it on Monday. Can they do it? Do you believe? And I'll say this. I believe if you put that series against Philadelphia, and that's what comes down to, I think that this Braves team is better equipped to win that one than the Philly is. I just believe it.
I'll tell you one thing, and I'm going to throw it back to a few years ago. The Braves in late September are one of the most exciting teams to watch because they play baseball better than most people do because they don't look at the standings anymore. They're just going out there having fun. I mean, you saw these guys last year with no fans in the stadium have a good time playing the last few games of the year because they're out there winning every game. Mm-hmm. This is the time when fans are, staying up. They're getting out there to the stadium. They're loud, and you have 6 home games in the season against 2 division rivals. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know it's Tuesday through Thursdays, the Philadelphia series, but that Friday, Saturday, Sunday series against the Mets, it's going to be loud in Truist Park. And the Braves play very well in front of those loud crowds. So, yes, I believe Atlanta can do it because I know they're a better team than the Mets and the Phillies are. Yeah.
I think they can do it, Ralph. We're going to see if they can do it. We may have to make one more trip up to Truist Park before the playoffs begin. It's going to be a ton of fun to watch, Ralph. We have a fantastic weekend of college football coming up. It's going to be fun. Make sure to stay tuned to the social media, thecrowdedbooth.com. Ralph, thank the sponsors once again. You got Section 103. I've got Cook's Place Hot Dogs right there. You should go check them out, Cook's Place Hot Dogs, and also go check out Section 103. Enter that code for Crowded Booth for 10% off your first order. It's fantastic, and thank you to Richard Leary. We're out.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on.